Hi, this is the second step in a 5-part series for people who are new to Postman. Welcome! In this video, we're going to walk through how to authorize a request using Postman, specifically using OAuth 1. Okay, so in part 1, we sent a request with the API key as a query string parameter. That's one way to authorize your API requests, but there's a bunch of other ways to do it too. And Postman has auth helpers to make that process a little bit easier. In this example, we'll use the Twitter API. If we send our Twitter screen name, this endpoint will return our Twitter user ID and other user information. Once again, we'll need some API credentials, which we can get from the Twitter developer portal. If you don't have a key already, go ahead and get one now. It takes 2 minutes to create a sample application, create your OAuth access token, and get your credentials. In the Twitter API documentation, this is the URL that we will copy and paste into Postman. Alright, let's get started. Make sure you're not using the Postman Chrome app, which is deprecated. You should be using the packaged app for Mac, Windows, or Linux. For this series, I'm using the Postman standalone app for Mac OS X. I'm on version 6. Make sure you have a Postman account and you're logged in. If you haven't already, let's save our first request to a collection. Give your request a name, create a new collection, and then save the request to that collection. Now you can see our new collection in the sidebar with our single request inside. Now for our second request. Once again, let's leave the HTTP verb as a GET request. When you paste the URL into Postman, you can click the params button to expand the data editor like we did last time. This is where we can enter our Twitter handle directly in the params editor. Or, do you remember a better way to do this? Let's add it as an environment variable. By storing our secrets in environment variables, we're segregating all of our personal information in a local environment. Later on, we'll be able to share the collection with someone else and not accidentally leak any of our own personal stuff. Okay, let's go to the quick look in the top right and see we only have one key value pair in this environment so far. Let's go ahead and add one more. Click Edit, add my Twitter handle as the key, which will be the name of this variable, and then go ahead and add your own Twitter screen name as the value. Hit Update. In the params data editor, replace the placeholder value with your new variable name, my Twitter handle, surrounded by double curly braces. When you hover over it now, you can see it's reading this value from the actively selected environment. Okay, we're not done yet. Let's go back to the Twitter API documentation, and it looks like every request must be authenticated. The documentation shows us an example curl request that includes a bunch of OAuth-y kind of headers. It's not super easy to read, and it's kind of gross. Let's step through how to do OAuth 1 in the Postman app. Under the Authorization tab, you can see all the different types of auth helpers we can add to the appropriate headers to the request we're sending. You can also do this for the collection or folder if every request in the collection or folder use the same auth type. In this case, we only have one request that uses this auth type, so let's add auth for this specific request. In the dropdown, select OAuth 1. Once we add our personal credentials, Postman will add the authorization data to the request headers. We can copy and paste our credentials directly into these text fields here, but we know better now. Do you remember how to use a variable in a text field? Using the double curly braces, of course, let's add some variables. Twitter consumer key, Twitter consumer secret, Twitter access token, Twitter access token secret. These variables are highlighted in red because they're unresolved. Do you remember where to add these variable values? Under the quick look. You can see we have 2 environment variables already. Let's add these next 4. Click Edit and add your Twitter consumer key, Twitter consumer secret, Twitter access token, and Twitter access token secret here. Hit Update. Back under the Auth tab, we can hover over these variables and see the values that will be swapped in. I think we're just about ready to send this request. Hit Send. If you take a peek under the Headers tab, you'll notice that when sending this request, Postman automatically added the authorization data to the request headers. This is a temporary header generated by Postman and is not saved with the request. Okay, let's inspect the response. We submitted our Twitter handle, and the response object includes a bunch of user information about me, including my Twitter ID. I think there's more that we can do now that we have our Twitter user ID. If you haven't already, make sure you save this request to the collection that we started building in part 1. And you did it. At this point, we can write a test, parse the response to extract the Twitter ID, or chain together this response to drive our next request. Keep watching to find out how. In this video, we talked about using Postman's OAuth 1 helper to authorize a single request, and using environment variables to store all of our personal credentials. This was authorization for a single request, but you could easily do the same for the entire collection or an entire folder in one shot. Keep it up and check out part 3. You got this!